Today we're diving into what could be a massive breakthrough against one of the deadliest cancers out there. We're talking about new research that has delivered results that are, well, frankly, they're unprecedented. It's a story about finally understanding the enemy on a molecular level and then designing a strategy so thorough it leaves no room for escape.
To really get why this is such a huge deal, you have to start with this number, 13%. That's the 5-year relative survival rate for the most common form of pancreatic cancer. It's a brutal statistic. For decades, any progress has been painfully slow, so you can see the stakes here really could not be higher.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the main target, this so-called undruggable enemy, and why it's been such a nightmare for so long. Then we'll get into the cancer's smartest trick, resistance. After that, we'll see the brilliant 3-part strategy designed to beat it, look at the absolutely stunning lab results, and finally, talk about what this all means for actual patients.
Okay, let's jump right in. To have any hope of fighting this disease, you first have to understand what makes it tick. And for pancreatic cancer, it almost always comes down to one single, notorious bad actor.
Meet the KRAS oncogene. You can think of it like a light switch for cell growth. Now, in about 95% of all pancreatic cancers, a mutation basically breaks that switch and jams it permanently in the on position. It just keeps screaming at the cell to divide, to grow, to survive. It's the engine that powers the whole tumor.
Now here's the kicker. Scientists have known about KRAS for over 40 years, but for all that time, actually designing a drug to stop it was considered impossible. Why? Well, look at its shape. The protein is basically a smooth, round ball. There are no little pockets or grooves for a drug to grab onto. It was like trying to pick up a wet marble with tweezers, a total scientific nightmare.
But of course, scientists don't give up. They eventually found clever ways to hit KRAS, but as soon as they did, the cancer played its trump card. And that brings us to the huge problem of resistance, the cancer's incredible ability to fight back.
And these escape routes are really the whole problem. Pancreatic tumors are masters of adaptation. You block their main road for growth, and they don't just shut down. Nope, they just build a new road. They rapidly rewire their own internal circuitry to find a detour and keep on growing. It's this frustrating game of biological whack-a-mole.
And this quote from the study's lead researcher, Mariano Barbacid, really says it all. This is the key insight. The cancer is just too flexible, too smart. Trying to beat it by hitting just one target is a strategy that's pretty much doomed from the start. They needed a whole new playbook, one that could anticipate all the cancer's escape plans.
So what's in this new playbook? Well, that brings us to the real heart of this story, the 3-node attack that was developed at the Spanish National Cancer Research Center, or CNI. The researchers themselves came up with this analogy, and it just makes so much sense. Think about it. If you try to fix a beam to the ceiling at just one point, it's pretty easy to break it loose. But if you anchor it at 3 separate points, it becomes incredibly strong, almost unbreakable. And they decided to apply that exact same logic to attacking the tumor.
So how did they do it? Let's look at the 3-drug cocktail. First, they hit KRAS, that main engine, with a drug called daraxonrasib. But they knew the tumor would try to restart that engine. So a second drug, afatinib, blocks the restart signal. Then, just to be sure, they brought in a third drug, SD36, to completely destroy the tumor's backup generator, a totally separate survival pathway called STAT3.
You see what they're doing here? It's a coordinated shutdown. You don't just block one road, you cut the main engine, you seal off all the possible escape routes, and you disable the backup power system, all at the same time. It's a strategy that's designed to leave the cancer with absolutely no way out.
Now, that strategy sounds brilliant on paper. But the really mind-blowing part is what happened when they actually tried it in the lab. So let's take a look at the results.
And the results were just night and day. When they used just the one KRAS drug, monotherapy, it helped a bit, sure, but the tumor always figured out a way around it and came back. But the triple therapy, that was a whole different ballgame. We're not just talking about shrinking the tumor, we're talking about complete and lasting regression, with 0 signs of resistance. 0. And how lasting are we talking? More than 200 days. That's how long the mice in the study remained completely cancer-free after the treatment stopped. This wasn't just holding the cancer back for a while. This was a durable, long-term response, which is just incredibly rare in this field.
And they made sure this wasn't some one-off fluke. They proved it worked across 3 of the toughest, most realistic models you can use. They used tumors grown in the pancreas, where they belong. They used mice that were genetically engineered to get this exact cancer. And they even used tumors taken directly from human patients. The result was the same every time.
But here's the most amazing part. When the researchers actually looked at the pancreatic tissue afterwards under a microscope, there was nothing left. No cancer cells, not even the dense, fibrous scar tissue that usually surrounds these tumors. It was all gone. The eradication was so complete that they felt comfortable using the word cure to describe what happened in these mice. Okay, so with results this spectacular, the obvious question is, what's next? When can people get this treatment? And that brings us to our final section, the long and careful road from the lab to the clinic. Here's a realistic look at the timeline. We've got the huge preclinical breakthrough this year. Now comes the hard work of optimizing the therapy for humans and running extensive safety tests. You have to get this right. So if everything goes perfectly, the best case estimate is that the very first trials in humans could potentially start sometime around 2029.
And the lead researcher himself wants everyone to be really clear about this. This quote is so important. This is the voice of responsible science. As incredible as these findings are, translating a treatment from mice to people is incredibly complex. And it's a process you simply cannot rush.
But in the end, you just can't overstate how important this work is. It really represents a paradigm shift. For so long, the fight against pancreatic cancer has been a story of tiny, incremental gains. This research gives us a whole new blueprint, a sophisticated strategy that aims for complete network interception, designed not just to slow the cancer down, but to wipe it out completely. It sets a clear course for the future, and it offers a powerful, tangible new reason for hope.